Good afternoon, and welcome to today's live lecture. I'm Patricia Simpson, Director of Political and Career Programs here at the Leadership Institute. We're joined today by Ravi Singh, who is the CEO and founder of Election Mall Technologies, which is a nonpartisan technology solutions firm that provides citizens, candidates, and political parties with the necessary online tools, services, and products to help them win elections via the internet. Now I'm reading...
I know, that's beautiful, Patty. I'll pay you for that
I normally wouldn't read a bio, but this is a significant bio. In 2004, almost 10 years ago, Business Week magazine and USA Today called Ravi the campaign guru, and that is his Twitter handle now, which is @campaignGuru. He was one that was seen that they're predicting to change the internet and change campaigns, and he has done so with electionmall.com, and we're very excited to have him here today to talk about campaign management software. I want to remind everyone that today's lecture is indeed recorded, so if you miss anything, you can come back and look at the archives, but it is also live. So if at any point in the lecture you have any questions, feel free to email them to live@leadershipinstitute.org, or you can direct your questions to either of our Twitter handles. Ravi's is @CampaignGuru, and the Leadership Institute's is @LeadershipINST. And you can hashtag any of your questions or comments with hashtag LIWebinar. I don't want to delay anymore, so what do you have for us today?
No, I have tons of great stuff. I actually have secrets, that I'm going to share with you guys. Tons of secrets, and I think the audience out there, I do encourage you guys to participate, because that's the beautiful thing about our democracy. And I think one of the most exciting things that I have always believed, Patty, is, and to the rest of you guys out there, is that it's good political karma to share things that you know. And the internet has evolved and literally changed the way we run political campaigns in a way that, in 2004, back then, there was no such thing as Twitter. And so there was no such thing as Facebook. So we were just seeing the rise of Google, YouTube, other technology applications. And so for the last 14 years, I've dedicated my life to helping promote e-democracy. And today we're going to talk about the subject matter that you guys have given me, which is on the campaign management. So let's get at it. I think what I want to start with is this one powerful image that we see that is happening around the world. I love this sign so much that I use it in my presentations all the time. The fact that the AK-47, the machete, has been replaced by Twitter and Facebook. I think that says so much to what is going on right now in the digital environment. We've seen revolutions happen because of online political campaigns. And candidates from school board all the way up to presidential ask me on a continuous basis, and ask our team at Election Mall, what can I do to create my own digital revolution? How can I win my campaign? So today's webinar, I should say, will actually empower your campaign with some of the basic fundamentals. And more importantly, I'll give you guys some of the secrets that we have learned along the line in the last 14 years so that your campaign can be successful. So let's look at what's in my brain. This is what actually is in my brain every day. And this slide sort of summarizes to me what is actually happening. The fact that we have so much technology out there, that the fact that we have different applications from all different aspects, we have from Facebook and Twitter, those are just one components of the entire grand picture of what is happening. And so it has become humanly impossible to take advantage of all these digital tools into one single location. So campaigns today have to basically learn how to use all these tools to actually have a successful digital campaign. It is not just one tool that will help you, but a series of all these tools tapping into the behavior of the users. So when we look at the three fundamentals of online politics, it still hasn't changed. When we apply technology into a political process of our campaign, it is to help generate money, votes, and awareness. The awareness aspect is the fact that I'm helping promoting myself, distributing information. The money aspect is to help me raise funds, and most importantly is to help generate voters. At the end of the day, we are running campaigns to win elections. Let's look at this slide, which I think says so much. Since when the internet was born and when technology companies were out there, we use applications like Excel, Microsoft Word, PowerPoint. From just this family of Microsoft, we actually take advantage of these tools on a daily basis, whether we use them in our educational process, or whether we use it in our business world, and we even use it in the campaign world. But we don't even really think that we're using Microsoft Excel or Microsoft Word. And we're actually using technology on a continuous basis. So what we have done during our course is that we've actually partnered up with one of the largest companies in the world, and you guys might have heard of it, called Microsoft, and we built our entire platform on these applications. And while doing so, we've learned a couple things, that you cannot just build on just one application. You also need to tap into Google, you also need to tap into Facebook, you have to also tap into Twitter. And so we have seen that the way to empower campaigns around the globe, and we've done this, from everywhere in Europe. So we've done campaigns in Australia. I've actually applied some of these same tactics in Croatia, Slovenia. I just got off the plane actually today, Patty, from Australia. From halfway across the globe. So I've come here basically with all these experiences, and the next couple of slides are basically now to show you what we've learned from all these countries. And the ability in the last 14 years to impact countries via technology and digital have actually changed my life and hopefully affected several of the countries electing leaders such as yourselves, or the campaigns that you guys have worked on, or more importantly, trying to figure it all out. So here's sort of an architectural graph, and one of the 4 fundamentals that I talk about are infrastructure, communication, organization, and strategy. But I've also added to this slide the ability to actually add distribution and databases. Distribution and databases have actually really impacted the way we do campaign management software, because these 2 fundamentals of actually databases and distribution are very key. When I talk about distribution, I'm referring to social media. I'm referring to the ability that we are actually deploying tactics. We look at Facebook, Twitter, these tools as basically tactics, digital tactics. We don't look at them as tools, because Twitter will not make you win an election. Facebook will not make you win an election. But what is also very key and fundamental is the databases. And why is databases so fundamental? It's such a boring subject and campaigns hate it at all times, is because the databases help identify the key factor, which is your voters. If you cannot identify your voters, you cannot win an election. So what is the use of having all of this technology if you can't win your election? So, we did this cool app, we did this cool website. Well, those things don't really impact or make a difference. At the end of the day, if you don't win your election, what use is it? So I come around campaigns all the time, and they'll say, we have this awesome website. We did this cool app. And we got everything under control. But I said, is it actually going to help you win your election? Is it actually going to produce the number of voters you actually need to actually win on election day? Are you actually targeting the right amount of donors, the right amount of volunteers to actually empower your campaign in a digital aspect? So when we look at campaign management software, it is fundamentally crucial that we focus on the 3 fundamentals. And I actually stole these fundamentals from my professor at Northwestern University, who told me all the time. He'd say, Ravi, what is the key fundamentals? And we were in graduate school, and everyone was stressed out, and they would say, the key fundamental is what? And some people would raise their hand and say votes, and some people would say money, and some people would say awareness. And he says, no, it is just votes. Votes at the end of the day are the crucial fundamentals. So what are the steps? Now, these are actually, this is the first time I'm sharing this, but I love the Leadership Institute so much, and I believe in what the mission of the Leadership Institute is, and I am hoping that this video and webinar will reach thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people, and basically empower their campaigns. That these are the steps that are revolving in my head, and I've written them down just especially for you guys. And the first step is basically write a digital plan and a budget. I cannot tell you how many times they will write a campaign plan, but they will not write a digital campaign. I need coffee. I can't do this. It's too contagious.
Around the globe.
I know. I was doing really good there. But the digital game plan, I couldn't say it in one sentence. The digital plan and budget is very crucial. Second is build your technology foundation. What does that mean? Build your technology foundation means is that identify the technology sources that you need, meaning get the computers, get the phones, get the tools in the office. I can't tell you how many times I walk into a campaign office and they lack the physical infrastructure to implement. Number 3, train and educate your staff on how to use the tools. They get the technology and then no one in the office knows how to use it. Or if they know how to use it, they know how to use 10% of the software. I've seen this when we've developed our own software, when we developed our own tools back in 2002, 2005, 2008, when we did our rollouts. Every single time, we had to keep on re-educating the campaign staff because new vocabulary, new behaviors, and new, basically, tactics on how to deploy these. Like, for example, A/B testing is so crucial right now. Talking about monthly recurring donor programs, talking about what is actually how to use a CMS system or a CRM. These kind of vocabulary words. Why are we, software as a service? What are the advantages? What is cloud computing? This kind of vocabulary can actually impact the way you actually communicate and, more importantly, how you train your staff. And then the fourth one is about raising funds. The ability to put the funds inside your campaign to actually build your foundation. If you're not doing this, your technology will stay at a very infant stages. Your campaign software will never be able to grow or scale because you will constantly need the resources. And then fifth is the ability to deploy digital tactics to empower and promote your campaign. Without those digital tactics to promote, like I said earlier, Facebook, Twitter, social media, email, these are tactics. They are not technology in my opinion. They are the ability for you to use these tactics to do the last and final step, which is to target by using metrics and analytics to accomplish your goals. During the 2012 presidential elections, I have been studying this for the last 8 months, and it is phenomenal, and I will share it with you guys here, that the presidential elections used metrics and analytics from both the Democratic and Republican campaigns, and the ones that used and understood those metrics were actually able to respond in real time. And because they were able to respond in real time, they were able to impact voter behavior, donor behavior, and volunteer participation at an unprecedented level in the entire globe. So let me repeat that. The ability to understand the metrics and analytics is crucial nowadays. Being able to store the data into a campaign software, hallelujah. We used to be able to do that back in the 1990s. In 2000 plus, now we used to be able to say email's great. In 2010, it's social media. But today, for campaigns, the ability to understand the metrics and the analytics are fundamentally crucial. So let's break it down into the 4 Ps. The 4 things that you need to look at when you look at campaign software or tools is the ability to go ahead and apply the things that you wrote in your digital plan that you came up with that you needed. Second is to figure out your promotion. The third is your placement, and 4 is your positioning. Now, what are we talking about balancing these digital Ps? It is important. Many campaigns will write the digital plan. They will also understand the promotion aspect. Okay, we're going to send out emails during 4th of July. We're going to send out emails after someone signs up for as a volunteer, or we're going to be able to do this kind of online ad on this blog or on this website. But what they don't understand is that software today has moved from basically mashups and metrics to cloud computing to what we call now artificial intelligence. The next wave of what we call Politics 3.0 to Politics 4.0 will be the ability for the applications to think on their own. For example, we already start seeing elements of this. When Amazon, you buy a book, it actually recommends some other books, right? We're starting to see this in Facebook. If you actually have liked some other people, they'll give you also recommendations of other people. Same thing in LinkedIn and etc. So we are starting to see the elements of using data to cross-profile and create that intelligence aspect. So the ability for us to place technology and do things at a right time are very fundamental. It's like, for example, in the old days in a campaign, someone would say, don't buy your yard signs in the beginning of the campaign. Why would they say that? Well, because you don't need your yard signs 8 months before. You need your yard signs the last month of the campaign. And so what happens is that some people make their placement decisions wrong or incorrectly in terms of technology. And the 4th and fundamental is positioning. The ability to position your campaign with your opposition, your opponent, your issue-oriented is very fundamental in your campaign software.
Now, just a question. Now, obviously,
how are we doing? Good?
We're doing great.
Yeah, okay, good. I'm going to drink my coffee now.
We obviously, here at the Leadership Institute, put an emphasis on everything to do with political technology, not just digital, but a lot of on-the-ground campaigning. How do you marry your digital strategy with your grassroots, on the ground, boots on the ground strategy?
And Patty, this is a great question, but that question that you said about, how do you match it, it should never be matched.
Okay.
It should be one and the same from the day of the beginning. The days of matching it were basically like 2004, 2008. But after 2012, what has happened now is that because of the internet penetration levels in this country and because of the accessibility of mobile applications and the fact that over 50% of us access our internet behaviors through our mobile phone now, this is part of our...
I have my phone on me right here.
Exactly. It's part of your lifestyle,
Yes.
right? So what has happened is that now we have actually adopted, Bill Gates used to say all the time, adopt a digital behavior, digital lifestyle. And we are moving towards a digital lifestyle. My father and my mother would never use an ATM card back in the, early, late 1990s, et cetera. My mom now, right, for example, I bought her a Surface, the new Surface that came out. And my mom was like, okay, what is the difference between the Surface and the iPad, right? Fundamental. I said, Mom, it has a USB drive.
Right.
And you can put the USB drive in there and add files. And she's like, oh, okay. And then she's like, where's the user manual? I said, Mom, there's no user manual with the Surface. And she goes, but I need the user manual because she belongs to a generation
Right.
where they have to match it, right? And I said, Mom, you just press the buttons. It's a tablet. And so the thing is that we are now at a very crucial moment in history. I mean, people will look back at this footage and et cetera and say, wow, they were talking about this stuff. Eventually, the internet will become like air, as it is in fundamental. And what has happened in the top 10 behaviors of running a political campaign, I have seen firsthand the evolution. In 1999, when I started this, the internet was probably 25th for a state rep. Now it's at top 10. And now we've also seen the rise of social media. Social media in 2005, when MySpace was out there, was maybe in the top 15, maybe top 20. Now it is maybe top 5. So campaigns have to understand that it is not matching. It is the fact that the digital has to be a component in hand and has to be used almost equivalent to a yard sign. It is a tactic.
Awesome. Thank you for that answer.
You're welcome. So I think the ability to look at digital success and add to Patty's question is the fact that social media to me is one of the top things that you have to do, because what has happened is that if you don't understand or have a presence on social media, that has become a fundamental. Second is online fundraising. I know campaigns hate to do fundraising and they hate about talking about it, but if you don't have the financial resources, you can't grow your campaign. And we have seen this historically, that campaigns that don't keep on reinvesting 20, 30, 40% of their online budget to their online activities will actually sort of reach a plateau and actually decrease because their competitors will pretty much surpass them. The third and the most important is website content. One of the things that we do and we don't do at Election Law is that we provide the tools. But what we have learned in the last 14 years is that we will never write content. And the reason why we won't write content is because you, the campaign, know the local issues, you know the local flavor, you know the ability to communicate with the local audience. And communicating to the West Coast and the East Coast of this country, or communicating as I just came from Australia or in a different country, is completely tailored towards the culture, the behavior, and etc. So writing content is really something that you as a campaign team really need to focus your efforts on. And it's something that has to become a daily part of your exercise. So I mentioned earlier in the presentation the digital plan. Let's talk about that, because that is fundamental. The first thing that I would tell you to do in this digital plan is that you have to write it, okay? The fact that many campaigns just start opening up a Facebook account and start tweeting. You can discipline your tweeting efforts. So let me give you an example. I was actually coaching a former president of a country, the president of Colombia, and he actually says, Ravi, I'm now leaving office. Thank you for helping us get the other guy elected, but what do I do now? He says, what do I do? And I said, President Uribe, I said, listen, what you have to do, sir, is you have to actually use your Twitter account. He says, what? He says, no, I use my BlackBerry, and back then BlackBerry was the hottest thing for him, so he would BBM. And I said, sir, you need to create a discipline where you're actually tweeting all the time. And that's how you're going to maintain your relationship. So I think back then he was like 75,000 followers, et cetera. Now he's over 1 million plus and growing tremendously. And that was several years ago, about 3.5, 4 years ago. And why was Twitter so crucial to his behavior? Because 140 characters for him was a lot easier than sending out an email, designing the email, sending out a press release, etc. So we have to understand that he had to actually write a digital game plan, and we actually wrote it to him. In the morning, he was going to basically do these kind of tweets about the news. In the afternoon, he was going to do these tweets in response to anything that anyone was commenting on. And in the evening, he was going to sort of end his sort of predictions of what is going to happen in politics or world affairs. And those three buckets became his part of his digital plan for Twitter. So when you write your digital plan, what are the components that go into it? And I've broken those into 4 categories. 1 is your web, 2 is your analytics, 3 is your databases, and 4 still fundamentally is your email. These 4 tools are crucial. Now, whether you use WordPress for your web, or you use a private content management system for your web, or however you build your website, the web is very, very fundamental in terms of how you write your digital game plan. 2 is your analytics. Look for the metrics that you want to actually do to measure your campaign success. For example, a very simple one is, how many likes do we want to have by the primary? How many likes do we want to have 1 month before the election? Be goal-oriented with your metrics. Just don't collect them, but also have them as part of a daily briefing or daily report. The third is your databases. You know, whether you buy a list of your voter data file or whether you match it with your donors, email appending has become fundamentally crucial for campaigns. And I will tell you something that was a success of 2012 campaign. Patty, this is the first time I'm telling this, is about social appending. Yes, you can actually do social appending now. So what happens is that I can take an email address and I can actually append it to Facebook and Twitter, to Skype, to Google+, and actually extract all of that information that is public.
Really?
So you know how powerful your email list now can be? And so by socially appending, we actually have a game changing, and we also now can actually email and communicate more effectively. So the next one is basically building. So build, manage, raise, promote. And so the build aspect is that when you build your website, you have to not only build your web presence and your design and et cetera, but also when you build that web presence, you have to keep in mind of the creative, the design, the content, and the logic of that website. And then the social media, you have to look at the same kind of digital branding for those aspects. So you need campaign tools. When I show you that big image with all those applications, that is exactly the fundamental challenge, is using some of these tools to actually build your social media. And then the third is the landing pages. I skipped the private login because I want to get back to it, but the landing pages are actually one pages with specific information on a specific topic. So for example, if I care about being pro-life or pro-choice, or if I be carrying guns or security issues or education issues, whatever my issues are, I would create a landing page to actually focus the attention to help me target online advertising. Now, the private login is something that I saw in 2007, but I have now been more convinced that that was a fundamental to the last presidential campaign success. Many campaigns do not create a private login for their users. And why? Because they think that Facebook and Twitter and these applications will help them. But no, those things are basically, again, tactics to deploy. So what happens is you have to create a private environment. Now, if you look at the presidential campaign of the Obama campaign and the Romney campaign, they had private logins where they were able to control their own ecosystems. And so they were able to go ahead and create what I call a virtual headquarters for their volunteers and their supporters. So there, they got special tools and instructions where they were able to help empower and mobilize. So many campaigns, in my prediction, and for 2014 and 2016, in order to be successful, have to create almost their own My program or My eLeader program to be able to take advantage of this kind of behavior that is happening in online campaigning. So when we look at these 3 web priorities, we have, like I said, in the building, we have the branding, the navigation, the collection of the data. 2 is we have the social media integration, the ability to get metrics, access to the content and data. And 3, scalability of the integrations, and that's where we can look at SEO as well as ranking. Now, when we look at the management aspect of campaign software, we have to realize that we are appealing to 4 different actors: voters, volunteers, donors, and staff. Voters, of course, are the target, but our supporters are actually divided up into volunteers, donors, and staff, meaning, very simply put, that we need to have technology for each of these behaviors. See, many think of the technology to court the voters or the technology to empower the volunteers, but they don't think of the technology to empower the donor and also the staff. The staff also needs access to that technology to basically be able to be effective in their campaign management. So many campaigns will say, well, they should be doing this. And I said, have you empowered your campaign staff with the latest and greatest tablet? Have you given them a mobile phone to be able to access this? Do they have a wireless card? So when we look at technology, it is using technology in a 360-degree approach. And what is very interesting is with donor technology empowerment, we see now the rise of what we call political crowdfunding. The ability to now raise money from other donors by giving them tools to actually influence their own networks. We've never seen this kind of behavior before. Before, we used to rely on the volunteer to help us raise money. Now we're actually seeing donors themselves help tap into their own donor network to get and raise money. And so when we look at database tools, the CRM, or the contact relationship management, or the campaign software actually is stored in one central location. Secondly, we've also seen databases for phone banking, databases for email, databases for walk list, as well as databases for volunteer outreach. And when we look at raising money, we have to break that down into 4 categories. 4 categories of basically online fundraising, which we all know, which is that one page that basically says I can basically take contributions online. And then there's the offline online fundraising aspect. The offline fundraising aspect is as crucial as the online fundraising capability, because where do you actually do the accounting to actually keep track of your checks, your abilities to take your offline credit cards, etc. We saw in 2012 and 2010 the rise of actually little devices that would hook onto your phone and people would take credit card information. But the challenge was that for reporting purposes, it became very difficult. And because many of the federal and state compliance regulations require us to actually collect certain information, it was very fundamentally a challenge to use and aggregate 4 or 5 different systems. So having a consolidated page that can raise money in multiple ways is very crucial. Raising money in mobile and tablet, the new way right now in campaign management software and in web development, a key fundamental you need to tell your campaigns today is that we want response design websites. What is the response design website? Responsive design websites are the ability that will automatically comply to a tablet and to a mobile phone. And then the last is events. The ability to raise money for my events by offering them the capability of offering them tickets and collecting that information so I can harness donor behavior. So when we look at fundraising, we have to look at the security, the web page, the integration. We have to look at the compliance, the donor management, the reports and the analytics, the email social sync, and the power to donor and finance committee. I have 2 more of these sections, which is the promote section, and I want to talk about that because I think we've seen now the rise of online advertising. In 2004, online advertising wasn't there. In 2010, we saw actually Facebook start introducing online advertising. We've seen online advertising give us the ability to target our voters in a direct way. Patty, one of the most interesting things that has now emerged is that when you actually have the email address of the voter information, you can actually now target that Facebook profile page with that email address.
Really?
Yes, so I don't have to advertise all over Facebook.
You can do it directly to a single user.
Yeah.
Don't get nervous about this at home because all of your worst fears are coming true, but all of our greatest dreams are coming true as,
well,
as political consultants.
Exactly. It's mind-boggling. I was in Malaysia during the election this year. And in Malaysia, we did something that was phenomenal. They have a huge amount of access to mobile phones. May I see your mobile phone?
You may.
Thank you. It's a nice cover. Very nice.
Thanks.
So when we look at the mobile phone, when we access, do you browse and surf on your phone?
I sure do.
Okay. When you access,
I never use a laptop. at home.
Right.
I only use my
Phone.
phone.
You're a perfect example. So what happens is what we're now seeing with online advertising, this is gonna, now just listen to this is really interesting, is that when I advertise on a website, the website has to take my ads. You know, they'll say, please submit your ad here and we'll put it on our website. But I can now advertise by device. So what that means is that I can advertise on a mobile or tablet in a geographical area without contacting those website providers.
Wow.
Did you understand that?
Yes.
Okay, so that means that I can geo-target mobile and tablet advertising in a geographical specific area without even contacting the web presence. As soon as they surf, our ads will show up.
So if you were a vendor at a concert festival, you could put an ad out to all of the attendees, come to this 15% off, right to a mobile phone.
Exactly.
Everyone.
Or let's put it in political terms, is that, you know, I automatically am visiting this area or having a rally or an event there, I can geo-target that entire city. Wow. Just for those couple hours or et cetera. So this to me will be a game changer in the way we run campaigns, because now online ads are very crucial by medium, but the fact that I can actually target ads by device. So we will see a change in the way we do political campaigning in 2012 and 2014 and 16, and that we haven't seen. And so these kind of tools will be sort of the secret sauces for those campaigns, and this is very affordable.
Yeah.
Meaning that the ability for me to advertise and target a geo-target can be under $500.
Is it cheaper to, right now, the rule of thumb is to send out mailers, physical mailers, because the average person or the average voter is older in age and they actually still read the mailers and
Correct.
they have impact. But 20 years from now, this will be the
This will be the ability, because this is in our pocket, as you clearly did without our even pre-planning.
Right.
Patty proved the example. You carry this with you all the time. So if I can penetrate this and be able to target you with my message, not in the email, I'm not accessing by the email. I'm just saying by the device. I'm not telling you by an app. This is not an app. This is not by email. This is not advertising on a website that you visit often, right? Or like the Leadership Institute website. It means that every time you turn on your phone to access through the browser, they will be able to target your phone by the ad.
wow.
So we're seeing, and that's geographically.
Right.
So we're seeing a real game changer in mobile and display
What
advertising.
happens when there are competing campaigns that are trying to access it?
Yeah, and again, it's the click-through rates, there's the swiping, there's, you can be able to do all kinds of aspects through there. So the rich media techniques or tactics there are actually going to give rise to a different type of political advertising. And so it's interesting to see this, but this kind of tactics that I'm sharing with your viewers and today's webinar were actually the ones that I'm deciphering that were actually used by the Democrats over the Republicans, that the Republicans never deployed. And the reason that is fascinating to me is that, as a nonpartisan technology company, we pride ourselves on taking the presidential tools and be able to empower them to the masses. And that's the whole idea of the mall, was that,
Right.
could I get the same stuff the big guys got to my local race?
Right, to a city council race or a state ledge race.
Exactly.
That you can apply all of these tactics. You don't have to have a multi-million-dollar budget
Exactly.
in order to deploy the tactics.
And that's what I work hard every day with. I actually contact those same providers, technology vendors, et cetera, and I say, okay, you're using this in the business. How did these campaigns get a hold of you? Well, they had a big shot and, et cetera. Okay, fine, work with us. We will develop the technology to give it and to empower the masses, because they don't look at the political vertical as a huge,
Right.
vertical.
That's amazing. I do want to remind everyone that you can ask questions throughout by emailing your questions to live@leadershipinstitute.org or by tweeting at Campaign Guru or LeadershipInst. But I'll let you continue with
Good.
your presentation.
All right, excellent. So when we look at those GeoTV priorities, we're looking at the voter file, the web database, the universal profile. We're looking at the web presence, the landing pages, the tools to viralize, and as Patty and me just had a discussion about, the mobile, the email, and most importantly, the online advertising. So in conclusion, when we look at campaign management software, we're looking at actually building a web presence, using technology to help us manage those digital aspects, raise money with technology that can help us do our fundraising as well as promote. So build, manage, raise, and promote are sort of the four fundamentals. Now, what are some of the extras that we're seeing? Well, we talked about some of them, but SMS, everyone kept on talking about mobile messaging. Well, that's actually sort of the extra. I have not seen this make a significant difference, but if your campaign is interested in sort of the icing on the cakes and the bells and whistles of technology, SMS has been really interesting. I've also seen the rise of mobile apps. Those mobile apps really haven't really made a significant difference, but those are sort of, again, nice to have. I've also seen the rise of online stores since 07 and 08, and those are great for fundraising, but they haven't really raised the money that you were hoping that they would raise. People still don't have this behavior of buying a t-shirt. They rather donate and then get rewarded with the t-shirt, but they don't like actually buying a physical t-shirt for $25 as a donation. And another extra was social apps, integrations within the social media pages. Because of the layouts of social media, Facebook has really done a phenomenal job of creating those tabs at the bottom of your profile that you're able to go ahead and click on. And you'll notice with the presidential campaigns, they had a donate tab or et cetera. And that's one of the things that we actually, are doing a lot of this year in 2013, giving campaigns those abilities to actually access those tabs. And then social CRM, the ability to actually collect that data and match it with the social profiles and social information. So in essence, creating a one-stop shop. Actually, this next slide is one of my favorites because the picture that I'm using here is actually something that I do on a daily basis. This is actually a background picture of a war room that I created in Colombia just within 72 hours, in which we had a team working 24 hours a day for the last 28 days of the campaign. And once the gentleman won the first round, we actually carried it around for another 50 days. Up to 50 days for the campaign. So this picture is actually me actually in a digital war room, and what we did was we always tell people there's no magic or single software or application that can help you win an election. And so you have to sort of take a one-stop approach when you look at your technology. So let's talk political. When we talk about base voters, swing voters, switch voters, and new voters, we are noticing that the switch voters, and let me define these just in case some of you guys might not be familiar with the political science terminology. The base are those that are loyal to a political party or to a political ideology. The swing voters, when you go down, are voting based on popularity. New voters are voting for the first time. Switch voters will vote based upon issues. And what we're noticing is that switch voter behavior tends to use online engagement tools more effectively than swing. Naturally, popularity, people are sort of going with the tide. If the polls are up, they tend to vote. So they really not engage with online tools. New voters, they're hesitant, but they do participate, but not as much. Base voters, usually I would think would be the strongest, loyal to the party. But this is incorrect. Studies are showing from our own analytics that those that are focused on issue-oriented campaigns tend to use digital medium and communication far, far beyond what a base voter would actually do. So when they look at engagement tactics, we look at the website, social media, fundraising software, database software, and GeoTV software. These things are automatically in that life cycle of the behavior of the tools. So when your teams are being created, we are now telling campaigns, focus on using technology that taps into this life cycle, but more importantly, focusing on your strengths. And so I'm going to talk about some of the things, Patty, that no one talks about when you're trying to buy the right tools or get the right tools for your campaign, because they don't mentally prepare themselves for it. One is that attack on a website. It's going to happen. It's going to happen more and more. The ability to attack a website and take it down is going to become fundamentally. Some of the other negatives is the ability for database deletion. Sometimes in campaigns, they'll actually delete the data, and the ability to access that. Social media comments, that one's become very, very popular. You'll see someone saying negative things on your social profile, and the campaign won't know what to do. They'll say, do we delete it? Do we keep it? Etc. The ability to comments that are defamatory, right, or abusive. What do you do in those cases? It was very clear in 2012 campaign where some of the presidential campaigns, not all of them, identified their comments, saying, I'm going to use my initials to identify my tweets, or I'm going to use my initials to identify my comments, because our staff from time to time will use these tools to speak on my behalf. The other thing we've also seen is a rise of donor fraud, email spam. We've also seen fake accounts being created, and we've also seen the ability of fake content, people putting up misinformation out there on Wikipedia and other information. And we've also seen the manipulation of multimedia, meaning that if you put up a video there, you can guarantee almost 75, 80% that your opponent or your opposition is going to take that video and try to manipulate it to their advantage. So what are some of the positives that technology has given rise to in software? Well, one is securing your domain name. That used to be the fundamental. I remember during Arnold Schwarzenegger's campaign way back in the beginning, they could never spell Schwarzenegger back in 2002, sorry. And they couldn't spell it, Patty. So what happened was, I remember the campaign was saying, what do we come up with as the domain name? And
Arnold.
Yeah, it would be right, etc. But they didn't, because they said, well, no, name ID. But if you put all the combinations of Schwarzenegger, I can't even spell it to this day. Could you spell it? It's
SCHWARZENEGGAR.
Yeah, tweet us if you think that's right, okay? Tweet us if you think that's right. But, no one could spell it. So do you remember the domain name of Arnold's?
No.
It was joinarnold.com.
I was going to say, when I think of Arnold Schwarzenegger, I don't think of Schwarzenegger, I think of Arnold. That's what I think of. It's, pardon my poor imitation of his,
It's not bad.
his accent.
So, but joinarnold.com was the domain name. And so sometimes people don't really put a lot of thought into buying the right domain name. And we actually, partnered up with GoDaddy several years ago because we realized that if you don't have the right domain name, fundamentally, it could actually be a game changer in the way you do your marketing, because the domain name goes on the address, it goes on the website now, it goes on your literature, it goes even sometimes on yard signs. And so it's becoming very, very fundamental. The other thing is creating the official social media accounts, secure those social media accounts, including Instagram now, LinkedIn, Pinterest, these ones that even if your campaign doesn't use them, you have to secure them. And so when you think of social media management, you have to keep track of all of these usernames and passwords. Make sure you set up one email address that you can access these guys over and over again. Don't make the mistake that we run into all the time, where campaigns today, when they look at software and tools and management, that they don't even have a password keeper, the ability to store all your passwords in one central location. And they'll register it under maybe the campaign manager, thinking that the campaign manager will never leave the campaign. And we know that that sometimes happens. And if that does happen, so does your domain name, so does your social media accounts, and etc. So be very cautious of that. Some of the other things that I would also tell you to do is look at how you set up your contact information in your profiles, your email autoresponders. A lot of times campaigns don't think about those autoresponders. They're very fundamental. Think about your vendors that you use. Make sure that they have a track record, they have a history. There's a rise of some phenomenal digital companies out there, and they're great, but it's important that they actually have proven and actually can deliver what they say. Expert consultants, there's so many great consultants out there that know what they're doing in the digital medium. Definitely take their advice, and then most importantly, write your digital game plan. So it is the campaign moments that we create and the tactics we deploy that help us gain the appreciation of voters. You like that?
I do.
Thank you. I'm going to say it one more time. It is the campaign moments we create and the tactics we deploy that help us gain the appreciation of voters. Be disciplined. That's what I tell people, is that, all of this stuff does not work if you're not disciplined. If it doesn't work the first time, trust me, it will eventually work. Don't reinvent the wheel. I work with campaigns all around the globe, and this year I think we did over 4,500 local campaigns.
Wow. Well, that's actually, here's a follow-up to that, is one of our viewers, Mike, says
Hey, Mike.
Mike says, I'm skeptical that digital campaigning applies to smaller campaigns. Say a voting population of 25,000 or less, 3 to 5 volunteers, under $20,000 budget.
Correct.
You could have a website, use email, Facebook, Twitter, but not as a targeting feedback tool. The resources required for digital strategy still seem beyond the capabilities of these small campaigns. Do you agree or disagree?
I completely disagree.
Okay.
And the reason why I disagree is I'm going to show you some propaganda slides that I slipped in here. Of course, because I am CEO of Election Mall, so I have to, tote that. But, Mike, I will tell you that, Microsoft has a free tool called Campaign Cloud, powered by Microsoft, which we co-developed with them. And that tool will actually help you accomplish some of those basic fundamentals, giving you a free web presence, allowing you to raise money, just like the presidential campaigns, and giving you tools like money bomb widgets and Facebook applications within the budget constraints that you said. And then the other interesting thing is that a lot of times these consultants or Mike or et cetera, and these brokers, they will charge you for the data matching and et cetera. And what we have done is through our interfaces is that we won't charge you. We'll actually run the query and see how much we can do to help you with the data purchases. So those things are there. But I think the most important thing, Mike, is don't underestimate the internet, because the fact is that in your campaign, it is more impactful and more powerful than the bigger guys. And I used to hear this argument, Mike, when in 2000, when George W. Bush's campaign, they would say, oh, the internet is only used for the presidential campaigns, and the state reps and the local candidates say, I wouldn't need a web presence. Some of the tactics that I shared with you today actually can all be purchased, for under like $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. I mean, all of the solutions. I mean, that's how effective. And the reason why that is so fundamentally crucial for you to understand is that technology has decreased, not just with us, but across the board. The cost of doing these things have definitely decreased. All we are trying to do is centralize those tools and make them available in one single location. So, Mike, I encourage you to, contact your local web vendor or whoever you're using and ask them about some of the things that they're doing. Or, you're more than welcome to give us a call and we'll help you guys out. But the most important thing to understand is that yes, it can be done. And it is very powerful because the concepts of micro-targeting, Patty, can be applied at using digital. And this is a game changer in terms of our psychology of running campaigns. You still reading another question?
No, I have a couple more questions
Good.
before we
Bring 'em.
start to wrap up.
Okay.
It's just, there's a lot of information, so I'm even trying to absorb it. And this is a
It's the
question
coffee.
that
you guys have good coffee. I'm drinking
It's
really fast. It's really
you're
strong.
the first person that's ever said that today.
It's good. All
Today.
right.
Christopher asks,
Yeah.
can you go into a little more detail about how you can target a Facebook via email?
Sure.
If I have a database of emails that I want to target, how do I make it work? Is that actually on Facebook adverts?
I don't know if it's on Facebook AdWords, but I know that we've used this in some of the presidential campaigns, and we can cross-profile and aggregate. Facebook does give you an API, if you're techie and geeky, in which you can actually extract some of the profile information of your users and be able to aggregate their information. This is what we call, the term is called social CRM, creating a database of your social contacts. If you, like I said, if you need help, you can email me and I'll be more than happy to see what we can do. But because if it's the campaign right around the corner. But one of the fundamentals thing is that being able to target, there are advertising companies that will actually help do this, but they're more boutique. For the smaller campaigns, it is a little bit more difficult to use this kind of tactic. But hopefully in the next year or so, we'll have an automated tool in which campaigns can do it. But it's something that we don't charge a consulting fee or anything to do. We're more interested in deploying the tactics. So give us a call and we'll help you out with that.
That's great. And actually, our last question has to do with costs for a campaign. Many online packages charge quite a bit of a percentage. How do you control costs, especially if you're committing to a platform if you're a campaign?
Yeah, I get this all the time. Campaigns are scared about switching platforms, et cetera, and stuff like that. Let me tell you this. I believe that all those technology companies out there are great. I'm one of those people that I believe that by, the more technologies out there in political arena, more, competitor softwares out there, the more people that are focusing on these kind of applications or this kind of applications, it's really healthy for the industry. However, when you're sort of limited and your platform is not doing all the things you need to do, I think it is also wise to have multiple platforms going. to find the platform that will actually do it. Because at the end of the day, the voter will not see the difference in the experience. It is just about your management. So, maybe accessing another system. I always tell people if you're not happy with your email software, like some of the business applications like Constant Contact or Chimp Mail, et cetera, call us up. Maybe we'll help you with our software, Election Email. So it doesn't really matter what the business application can do. It's what the voter experience is, because the voter will not know what platform you're using, but you still have this idea and you still want to get your mission across via technology. So I say use as many platforms as you want. In fact, we have a philosophy in our culture, Patty, where we tell if someone says, I'm using this software, I say no speak ill. Always tell them, great piece of software, keep on using it. However, also think about this. And I think that way, for the last 14 years, it has been very healthy for us. It's one of the reasons why we've stuck around for this long time, is because campaigns realize that technology will consistently change. There, as I said in the beginning of the slide, there is no magic software. And because there's no magic software, we are faced to use different technologies and aggregate them. And it's very difficult. And so our mission statement has to try to become a mall where you can get everything. You can try to get Facebook. You can try to get Microsoft.
Now I
Google.
love going shopping. So.
Well, that's good. Come on. Yeah. I'm a shopaholic, so.
We live in a society where it's almost all or nothing now, and it's immediate gratification. So do people tend to get frustrated if the digital strategies that you recommend don't work immediately?
Oh, yeah. That's why this last slide about being disciplined is so crucial. And I think I'm one of the first presenters you guys probably have would actually talk about the negatives of technology when you've invited me to speak on technology, because people don't prepare for what I call fires. There's always going to be a fire in a campaign. Something is going to go wrong.
Oh, yeah.
There's always chaotic conditions. And so if you think your campaign is exempt from that, good luck. It's not. Every campaign, I walk into another country. I was in Brazil, right? And they were saying, we're having all these problems. Trust me, you have these problems everywhere.
Right. Just who's better at
handling it and managing it, right? So that's where the meditation kicks in and the yoga kicks in. It helps me,
And the campaign guru can help you out.
So, but I think it is a challenge for a lot of these campaigns, and I think putting it all together, being patient and disciplined. I will tell you that if you build it right and you work properly on your campaign, these things that I've shared with you will actually make a significant difference. I mean, I have seen these actually turn campaigns around for heads of state. I mean, literally heads of state, where they were behind by like 15, 18 points. And for some of those local campaigns out there, some of these tactics that I've suggested to you could be the crucial difference in the last couple days. And I'm telling you, anything within a 20-point range, deploying some of these tactics could help you actually turn the campaign around.
Excellent. Well, Ravi, thank you so much for joining us
my
today.
pleasure. Thank you.
I definitely learned a lot, much more than I expected to today. There was just a lot. It's like drinking from a fire hose.
Okay, good.
For sure. But again, thank you for joining us, and I hope everybody at home who's viewing this enjoyed it as well. Again, a reminder that it was recorded, so you will be able to watch an archived version of this at www.leadershipinstitute.org/activism-on-demand, and you can view all of our archived webinars there as well. I want to invite all of you to our next webinar, which will be Wednesday, October 23rd at 3 p.m., where we will be talking about online fundraising tools. So once again, thank you for joining us, and have a great afternoon.